and part of the initiative, which is the Natural Areas Division of Parks. And so tonight is our final meeting regarding the conceptual design for improvements at Chickasaw Park. I guess I want to start, sometimes folks are not familiar with the project, and we tried our best to advertise this over the many months that it's been going on, and I'll just a little bit about that. Is there anybody here who's not familiar with this project at all? Not. Okay, so we have a couple folks. So, good. It's a great opportunity to be introduced. Do you all live in Chickasaw neighborhood by chance? Yes. Okay, great. Well, that's even better. So, hopefully, give a lot of good information here. Like I said, it has been a project we've been working on for a while, and I want to kind of orient to our process tonight. So, we have Lucky and Farley represented. So, this is Matt Gallo. He's a part of our consulting team. Just a little bit of background on the project is this is it's not a one-off thing for Chickasaw Park. This is actually part of an initiative that Parks has been working on really for about 12 years called the Louisville Recreation Initiative. It started with environmental education programming that we run out of Jefferson, Louisville, and have been since 2008 called Louisville's Engaging Children Outdoors. So to go into that, it's been a whole meeting on that. We basically have over time expanded a program that gets West Louisville youth primarily engaged in nature through a number of activities. And we've got brochures over there to talk about that. And today, after many years of work and expansion, we go to childhood nature play. We have field trips for elementary school. We have 4 partner schools, 3 of which are in West Louisville. And they get right now 7 visits over 3rd and 4th grade. We also do a multitude of out-of-school time programming, partnering with community centers. So it was back in school, working with Southwick in California, just Portland, community centers, and so we have a whole calendar over there of activities where we can get kids from community centers if they sign up, doing archery, hiking, climbing, some of those things, and that's kind of where I was here today. A lot of those things have to happen somewhere else, and that's part of the problem. We have to take kids to the forest. We have to take kids outside of West Louisville to experience those things sometimes. And so the ultimate goal is that we create, as a department, more equitable access to nature. And so that means creating programming, environmental programming, outdoor education, recreation programming in West Louisville, and trying to also develop amenities that allow us to make that happen. And so that's part of the mayor's strategic plan to do this, and we have support from the mayor, and a lot of the funding that we've had over the years has come from government sources that we've been able to leverage. We also have a friends group called Wilderness Louisville, which is fundraisers for the programming side of things, and we also have there's a nonprofit Homestead Park Conservancy, which we're hoping will engage around some of the fundraising for the actual physical improvements. So just really excited to be here tonight with you all and talk about the project and introduce you to specifically what's going on in Chickasaw. Just one other connection. So I mentioned the West Louisville Outdoor Recreation Initiative. So what we're trying to get to is an environmental education center, an outdoor learning center in Chickasaw Park. There's a brochure over there that has all the diagrams for that. We have that designed. And ultimately, the improvements at Chickasaw Park, if you're familiar with things that have been happening in Shawnee, you know the boat ramp is going in. Had the groundbreaking for that in January. So getting access to the river for boating, for canoeing, for fishing, that's a big deal. Also, last year we put in a bicycle pump track. We partnered to do overnight camping in Shawnee Park on occasion. We'd like to be able to do more of this type of activity as a department. We're also working to fund a hiking trail in the Old Fountain Ferry area in Shawnee Park. So if you can kind of think of those amenities being brought to West Louisville like they exist in other parts of town, and what that means for us as a department to be able to do more environmental education programming, outdoor recreation programming in partnership with a lot of folks in the community, that's fantastic. The other side of it is, as we're working with Summer Works we're actually engaging youth from West Louisville in these activities. So a lot of the work that's happened in Chickasaw here the last year was in partnership or with the assistance of kids from West Louisville. And so we're creating a pathway for kids to gain experience in this type of activity and programming and come work for us at Metro Parks. And some of that's already happening. We're just very excited to be able to try to create a pathway for kids in West Louisville to take leadership logistics, we are doing this Facebook Live tonight, so that's what Gabby's doing there. So as we get some questions, we'll take some questions from Facebook, hopefully, and so we'll give an opportunity to share that with the community as well. So stepping into it, let's see, the first phase here, let me get my, can you give me an agenda? I'm going to try to keep us on track. So, restrooms are out there, food's right there, please take part. So at 6:15 until 6:40, I give a little presentation. And the big part today is unveiling the conceptual design drawings for this. We have a grant that is funding development of design and construction documentation. So the purpose of this thing tonight is to introduce the final conceptual drawings, get some feedback on that, and then go into a full-blown construction document development process, which is what this probably is going to do. Give us a great cost estimate that's realistic, and try to raise the money to implement these improvements. So very exciting. So just real briefly, I want to give an overview of kind of how we got here for those who maybe are unfamiliar. So first of all, I have a couple diagrams, and I will say all of this is on our website, LouisvilleEcho.com. So every stakeholder meeting we've had, the minutes are there, the conceptual drawings of each of the phases. So I encourage you to pick up some of the documents and go to that website. We have, like I said, been working on this for quite a while. Just a real quick rundown. This is actually a flyer that's over there, if you want to pick one up. The Master Plan for Chickasaw Park was done in 2001. Some improvements were made, I think over the years related to that, but the pond was not implemented. And then the area where we're going to talk about where this forest play area was also not fully developed. We initiated our ECHO program in 2008. And so that is when we started at Jefferson More Forest and Metro Parks, really starting to push towards what you're going to see today. We got a grant in 2014 from the National Park Service to do the first master plan for the Westville Outdoor Rec Initiative. Later that was fully funded by Metro, and so the actual document is over there. That's what laid out improvements at Chickasaw, improvements at Shawnee, improvements at Fort Wharf, and kind of gave this idea of this nature center, which is, we kind of think of it as you've got regional libraries, you've got those all over the community, you've got nature centers all over the community, but you don't have one in West Louisville. So that's kind of what we're trying to get to. So that planning happened in 2015. The plan was finished in 2016, and then from there we got funding to drill down in some of the other initiative areas. So we started with the Shawnee Outdoor Learning Center. So I mentioned that design work was completed actually in 2018, and we have a whole document that outlines that. But then a couple years ago, 2018, we got funding from the National Recreation Park Association to do this Chickasaw work. So all throughout those years, we've had public engagement sessions. So I think some of you all, I was actually pleasantly surprised. I wonder if a few folks said they are not familiar, so that's fantastic. Did want to give just a brief overview of some of the work that was required at Chickasaw. And that included the testing that we had to do to get to the point of actually making the recommendations. So if you've been to our meetings, you've seen these diagrams, and again, these are all on the website. There has been some testing over the years at the pond. Actually showed steady improvement over the years. We have folks from air pollution control that can speak to the fact that we've had a decrease in air pollution. The pollutants of concern initially were related to coal burning, and so with switches to natural gas, with regulations, you've seen that input decrease. So this part of the grant that we had paid for a full range of testing, and that testing has come back up with positive results, meaning we actually don't have pollution that's outside of safe limits. So that has been good news, and that has allowed us to plan for improvements to the pond that reflect that. But we wanted to make sure we're very transparent about everything, so these diagrams go into that, the testing that's been done. It goes into some of the pollutants of concern, the options that we considered, given that, and so that's the history of that process. So where we are today is, I'm going to turn over here in a second, to Matt, but we wanted to make sure that we are working to alleviate any remaining concerns. So we've committed we have a resident community council that's helping the project, and our stakeholder meetings with agency folks and other stakeholders in the community. We want to make a commitment as parks that we're going to continue to test to verify that conditions are safe. So we have a whole diagram here that summarizes what we've talked with the community about, and that involves fish tissue sampling. So we want to make sure that we're doing that to demonstrate that we still have safe conditions in terms of the police of concern. There is some sediment sampling that will be done at the appropriate time, and then we also want to engage the community in water quality testing. So the spiral there, we've got an event coming up on the 27th of March. We're going to be doing water quality testing in the park with the Kentucky Waterways Alliance, so it's an opportunity for the community to get involved and help keep this pond safe for the community. So that's my background. I want to make sure to give plenty of time to Matt to go into the design drawings and give a little bit of history on the process. So maybe before I start, just real quick, anybody have any questions?
I do.
Yes.
Okay. So when you all first came up with the concept in 2001, was information sent to the community? Was brochures sent out to the community in reference to the vision for Chickasaw?
In 2001?
Yes.
So I've been at Parks since 2001. I wasn't involved with the master plan, but I'm gonna say I don't know exactly because I wasn't involved with the master plan, and I don't think anybody in this room was at that time. But generally, when we do park master plans, there is an effort to get a significant community input. So what I can do is I didn't bring that master plan with me, but it is online, and in that document it goes through what community outreach would have been done. I do know, having I'm familiar with the document, and there was a significant effort to research the history of the park. And I'm going to say, although I can't, don't have it with me, but I'm going to say there was a significant effort to have community involvement in that process. It's just the way
we haven't heard anything, and we have lived, grown from birth in the community, in Chickasaw, and nothing has been done, nothing has been sent. The first thing I heard about it was the card that I received in the mail. So if you're going to do something to a historically African American park, it seemed like it should have on the committee, committee members from the people in the community that have lived and grown and worked in that community, so that we can be abreast of what's going on. Not that, oh, this is the three options that we have, because there are certain historical aspects about Chickasaw Park that we want to see maintained. I understand about the forest and all the different things to have youth involvement. We really need something for youth involvement in Chickasaw and Shawnee. But we should be able to say, this is not going to work. This should work, but well, maybe if you would do this, keep us abreast, allow us to say, I would like to work within that community in a project so I can be a part of it. See, that's the problem. A lot of times we have a good idea, but if you bring the community in, it'll be a great idea.
Well, I would love to, because you mentioned 2001, I wasn't here in 2001. This process that we've laid out here, we have actually done I think a pretty good job. I mean, it's for you all to judge, but we have had steering committees with representatives of the neighborhood, particularly Chickasaw. We work very closely with the former council member, and we're working with the current council member. So we have had representation from the community at every step of the way. We've really made a level best effort to do that. We also have a resident community council. So I can give you names of individuals if you'd like, but in the interest of time, maybe after, I'd be happy to follow up with that. I think we've tried our best, and we really have tried to have an inclusive process and be very open with information, and particularly talk about engaging youth. I mean, we serve 2,500 kids a year with the ECHO program, and 70% of those are coming from West Louisville. I mean, I could talk all day about, we're just very excited to meet your needs in terms of what you want to see happen for youth in West Louisville. So I think I'm happy to follow up on that. One more question, and we'll turn to that.
Well, let me say that this is your first time hearing about it, because my first time, and not that I live in the area, it's just that I always hang out in the West End, and it's part of my life. I've been going down there since the early 70s. So when I was in the teens. So my thing is this: when you had this created to do certain things in the park, and I'm not knocking about it, no means. I think it's positive. But what I'm saying, when you had this in mind, who did you have in mind to create some of the structures? I mean, what culture did you have in mind for this? I'm seeing you have something for the kiddies, but what about the adults, other than the walking trail, which you can do that anywhere? But who did you have in mind when you started creating some of these structures?
Yeah, that's a big question. We have had, I could spend the whole meeting talking about this because we've really done a lot of community engagement around access to nature, and there's a lot of issues associated with who is nature for, those kind of questions. And so what we're coming to this project saying is we as a department have not done a good job creating the same opportunities for kids all over the community that should be available. And what we've heard in the research we've done and in the conversations we've had with community, particularly around certain events. So I'll give you an example. Access to water has been an issue that we've heard. I mean, the 2001 master plan for Chickasaw identified fixing up the pond. We're 25 years later and the pond has not been fixed up. That was a community concern about 25 years ago. Boatland access to the Ohio River disappeared in the 60s, maybe 70s, I understand. So when we talk about what we heard from community, we heard bring that stuff back. And so we're trying to be responsive to that, but what we also have heard, and we know, and this I'll go into why we're doing this at some level, is who's standing up here in front of me tonight talking? I'm a white man, he's a white man. We want to create job opportunities for kids to get up here and be representing this project. And I'm just trying to be serious about how dedicated we are to making that happen. And but I'm still a white man, I'm still a number. So that's what I'm saying. We've done our best. We've heard from the community. We want more programming. We want more safe programming for kids. We want our kids to be able to enjoy canoeing, and we've done the canoeing program. And that's kind of the impetus for this whole project. Is we started doing canoeing program in Shawnee Park in 2012. There literally was no way down the river. We actually constructed the trail down the river, and it's just been phenomenal. Who out here has been on that canoeing trip in Shawnee Park? And so, I wish there were more, but we've just gotten fantastic feedback from kids and families. And so we really, we wouldn't continue to do this because we feel like we're on the right track, and that input is reflected here. And so I hope,
So there's a board that you all have, that you all can make some decisions. Yes. Are there any African Americans on that board?
Yes. We have a resident community council that has been, we have had steering committees throughout the process that have representatives from West Louisville residents, particularly Shawnee, Chickasaw neighborhoods. So when we did the center design, which is over there, that we have representation. We've had that representation all along this project as well. But we also have a resident community council, which has been in the past year, which is made up of 7 individuals, all from West Louisville. And we're working through a process now to try to give, the ability for that group to guide the process moving forward. So I will say this is new for, you probably not have a government employee come up and say these kind of things, but we are really trying to do that. It's going to take a lot of work. I'm not saying we're perfect, but we completely hear what you're saying, we hear what you're saying, and we're trying to do that. So if there are folks interested in becoming a part of that, please let me know. We want folks who like this project to get involved. So there are opportunities. What I'm going to say to you is I don't want to be the one picking those people. We're trying to have the resident council decide who the members are. So that's the kind of inclusive process we're kind of trying to do. So I'll just say that if you would like to follow on that, anybody, please let me know. We're excited to have you involved. Absolutely.
I think the problem is that it's not getting out to the neighborhood. You have your council and things like that, but it's not getting out to the people in the neighborhood. It'd be nice if it could be put in a little Defender or something, even a board in Chickasaw Park where you put the meeting and what happened and stuff like that on it, you know. But it'd be real nice to know because, see, you know, I think that, you know, there need to be a few more smaller places where people can go and picnic on the weekend and stuff like that in the park. I mean, for a family affair, you know, kind of bring some of that type of thing back. You know, they have their large parties or whatever, or picnics or whatever under the two shelters that's there, but you know, I think 3 or 4 more smaller ones in different areas under the tree or whatever would be nice. I mean, you know, I'm in Chickasaw Park every day.
Well, I think you'll see some of that represented in the plan here around the
Well,
hall.
that's great. It doesn't make me any difference whether, you know, it's the idea of a white man or a black man, as long as it's something that is good, family worthy, you know, park usable, you know, just.
Yep, absolutely. Well, can we get into that then and show you where we've ended up here? And so I'm going to turn over to Matt Gullo. He's with Luckett and Farley, and going to walk through some of the conceptual. With Luckett and Farley. They're the consultant that is being paid to do the design process.
Well, good evening. That was a spirited start to this conversation. So, again, Matt Gullo, I was Luckett and Farley. I'm a landscape architect and urban planner. Been working in communities like this for a long time. We were brought into this process about a year ago, specifically with Chickasaw Park and the first phase of construction that would want to be held at Chickasaw Park. Before we even got into that construction, we were working with the city and specifically Bennett on trying to get some community input and to understand the needs of the people that are using Chickasaw Park currently. So from my right, your left, that direction to here is basically the general process that we went through. So if you look over here, that process really started extremely conceptual, just lots of bubble diagrams. We did not put anything on paper. Choices of what people like to see in Chickasaw Park, from different types of nature play zones to what they would want to see around the park, around the pond, sorry. Again, we did not jump right into a very concrete design. We started very elementary on the design process because, again, like all of you have said, this is a process and it's for the people using the park. I don't live near this park. I wouldn't necessarily go to here on a day-to-day basis, so I shouldn't be the person designing this park. I'm the person that takes your thoughts and puts those thoughts on paper so that you have the best product at the end of the day. And I think this is the process that we went through was really energetic. I really enjoyed the process. We got out there many times with stakeholders, people that Bennett had discussed, along with going out there and having a big community event on a Sunday when the most amount of people are in that park. We heard from several stakeholders that the biggest event is on Sundays after church, that they are holding big picnics, community gathering events, getting families out there. So we didn't want to hold it at night similar to this when there's not a lot of people there. We wanted to get as many people involved in the process as possible. So we got out there, we had some food similar to tonight, and encouraged people to come up to boards like this and give input about what they would like to see as part of the renovations being done at Chickasaw Park. And so that's what this process is all about from our standpoint, from the city standpoint.
You did that a year ago. You said you started.
We started the process just talking about how best to get from where we are, from the master plan to conceptual design and then into construction.
Yeah, when did you start
So
that?
this started back in mid-fall. So
Mid-fall last year.
last year, 2019. September, I think we had the event. September 29th.
Because I've been talking about putting, being able to skate, to connect the water park to Shawnee Park and have to be able to skate around and then maybe skate back down to the waterfront, but mostly around Shawnee Park. And I wish I had known about your little bubble plan there, because I would have definitely put my input. I've been talking about it to the mayor and everybody. He told me there was a committee or something, but he said, get on the committee, and
Right.
I couldn't find you guys.
I don't have that. So I know we did a lot of flyers and held advertisement.
So if you pick that up, we have kind of the outline of what we've done related to this. So we've made presentations in the community, West Louisville Dream Team, West Jefferson County Green Task Force. We've met with Chickasaw Federation, REACT, sponsored an event. As far as, we tried to really, since this was Chickasaw, focus around the neighborhood. So one of the public events, we did door hangers in a radius around the park. So I don't know exactly where you live, but that was.
I live in Chickasaw.
Okay, so we did it, at that point it was 500, we just did a map, and 500 closest houses got a door hanger with, actually walked the neighborhood to put those up. For this event, some of you hopefully got a postcard.
I live 2 blocks from the park, and I got nothing.
I mean, we did put out, put out door hangers for that particular public activity, flyers.
I found out about this from the neighborhood association.
Yep, well, that's one avenue that we've used. So, do our best. It's not possible to be perfect.
And this is your final presentation?
This is the presentation of the final conceptual drawings, yes.
So we have no input to what
Well,
we would like
no,
to
absolutely.
have changed.
We're looking to get your input tonight. You're going to take that back, and if it's a significant change, that's what we're here for. We haven't done the construction drawings yet. We haven't started the process. So this is the opportunity. If you picked up if you signed in, I hope you all have signed in, because there is. If you want to stay engaged, we have a website, LouisvilleEcho.com. So that's our main avenue for promoting the program, because again, we're trying to get kids and parents involved in the project. And so that's, if you've got that, you get on our mailing list, we can send that out, absolutely. On that sheet, comments, so we hope you make comments today, but on that website, you can also send us an email, we'll get those comments, we'll pass those on to our design consultant as well. So plenty of opportunities to give additional feedback. That's why we're here tonight.
One thing you said earlier, was that in 2008 you received a grant, or was it in 2006?
We've received a lot of grants, so
It's
been a long
a
process.
grant that it was mainly for Shawnee Park. I wasn't for both.
Well, okay, so again, we've got a master plan. Again, we're trying to tie amenities together that create an ecosystem for kids to get involved with nature with their families. So it involves Chickasaw, Shawnee, and even Portland Wharf Park. So we've had that master plan was done in 2016. And then since then, I mentioned we kind of drilled down into some of the projects. So 2018, we got money to do the Shawnee Outdoor Learning Center design. And we had a steering committee for that. And then this process has been the grant that we got in 2018 just for Chickasaw.
Okay, now who governs the funds?
It's a grant that comes to Metro. So I applied for it out of Jefferson and Moore, so we manage that all for Parks. So it's a Parks project.
Okay. So, when is the next meeting of for the final? Well, you should have another meeting to go over like any changes that you want
We'll
to make.
incorporate those changes.
When is the next meeting of the board that you say that you have that is that some of the people from the community sit on?
Yeah, so we meet roughly monthly. We have the next date on that? March 5th.
Is the public available to come to the meeting?
Well, that's an interesting question, because I mentioned we're trying to let the group decide how they manage it. So that's, I don't want to put anybody in the spot. We have a representative here tonight, but it is a group that's trying to build its own capacity to help govern the process.
But
so if you're interested, I would say stay after, and I can
But it
connect
is
you up
because
with
of the
folks.
funds that's used, which is taxpayer money, that it is for the Chickasaw neighborhood, we should be able to come in to ask questions to the governing board that you say you have that represent the individuals in Chickasaw. So we need to know exactly how did you come about being on the board, how was you chosen, and this and that and the other, and in reference to the plans, because not only for children, you do need to have something for seniors, because seniors walk that park every day.
And then walking past, so you asked, so please stay after, and I'll connect you with that. It's not a governing board per se, so the funding for the project comes through Metro, but we're trying to create an opportunity for folks to really help guide the process, and that we will listen to them. It's a little new for Metro government, I think, because I'm hearing your comments and you're saying it hasn't happened, and I'm saying we're trying to make it happen, and I'm learning, we're all learning, so it's a great process to be going through.
So your funding was only for kids and families?
The funding, the specific
These
grant.
designs are only for kids?
No, this is for adults as well, so, this reflects the original master plan in terms of trying to get access to the river. The pond itself is for everyone.
So when
It's
we
just
actually
there's a-
went through the process, we had families there, we had adults, we had kids, all involved in trying to get input from them to see what they wanted to implement into this design. So what you'll see, and what I'm going to get to eventually here, is the response from the community of the amenities, both kid-oriented and adult-oriented, that will be implemented at this park. And
You got teens?
excuse me?
Teenagers?
Yes, I'm sorry. So it's kids in general for instance, specifically in the nature play zone, we have several zones here from toddler all the way up to age 12 and beyond. So that, and then we have spaces in there just for adults as well that we heard from the community. So getting back to that process is, so that kind of gone over this process. So from there, we started getting that input and refining it a little bit more to this point where we are here. And from this section, it kind of starts to tell a story of what we hear from the community and want to implement on site. And then we started getting information from there. And this started getting into a little bit more technical detail. So specifically with the pond and what information that we have from Fish and Wildlife, from the environmental groups that have researched this pond, MSD was involved, and looking at different options of what can happen with the pond, and then taking input from the community on exactly what that pond should look like, what should be done at the pond, what amenities should be held at, which should be placed at the pond, to get to this final, not a final, but more of a very high conceptual drawing. So from here that you'll see where we are today, you can see this is a little bit more playful, a little bit more, I guess, exciting to the eye, but very, very, I guess, not concrete in the form of we can change this. And we still are at a phase where the design can change. And that's why we're having these meetings. Taking the community input that we got from all these community meetings, we heard several things. We heard we want to see fishing at this pond. We heard that there needs to be picnic areas at this pond, other than the one at the shelter. We heard that there needs to be education at this pond. We heard that there needs to be just general seating at this pond so someone can just sit and watch people and people watch. We heard that people want to interact with the water at the pond. So how do we do that? We need to dredge that soil that's there out so that you can actually use the water, whether it be engaging it from an educational standpoint or from actually putting a canoe or a kayak on the pond itself to start giving education sessions of how to use a kayak properly, how to enter and things like that. Having ADA access was important. And then providing parking was important to people. Being able to have fish that are sustained was important. So these are, and then being able to, what to actually do with the soil once it's dredged. Where do we put that? How do we use that? So all these things kind of came into play while designing this, and those are some of that input from the community came and was actually placed on here. I know you have a few.
Yeah, I got some questions. One of the questions would be, you said that you got grants for these projects, correct?
The city did.
Sorry, the city has grants for these products. So it seems to me that some of the projects that you already have, you have grants from, and they're allocated to those projects. So how much altering can you do? Because it seems like the grant has to be specifically for those projects that you already have implemented in the drawings. So.
Yeah, so the actual grant money is for planning, and so it's for getting community input. It doesn't, I mean, the project can take a form from that community input process, so it didn't really define exactly what we have to do. That's the whole money was designed to fund these kind of meetings. So the food that you're eating tonight was paid for by the grant, for instance.
So may I ask, how much will this project require? How much money are you looking to require to finish this whole project? I mean, how much?
So that is the reason we're going through that. We have to go through these stages of conceptual design to get to a more detailed design. So that is part of Luckett and Foley's role right now.
Mm-hmm.
As we have a general idea. We're $1.5–2 million to their opinion, but don't hold me to that.
No.
Now we're going to Luckett and Foley, and they're with their engineering team. They're actually drilling down and going to get us a much firmer cost estimate by the spring, roughly. And that's what we will take further to fund the construction.
Because I understand we almost put that much, even more, in Shawnee Park and getting it fixed up, and it's still
Yeah, there's a ton of needs for sure. I mean, this
So,
is just
I mean, I know Chickasaw is a much smaller park than Shawnee, but we're continuing pouring money into it, and I think the residents wants to see what their value, what are they getting out of the value of the money that they will eventually start paying for.
Well, I think, again, if you get a chance, we have the master plan, which kind of spells out strategically what we're trying to do as a department. So these investments are designed to give folks opportunities to just enjoy the outdoors on their own. It also supports programming that we're doing intentionally through Metro Parks to try to, like I mentioned earlier, get kids engaged, get them on a pathway. We're trying to through this. I mean, a big part of the reason we're doing this in general is the equity issues associated with health in the community, education, jobs, in general, education, attainment, health. Those are all things that are related, and we believe, and research shows, and we're not the only ones saying this. So there are plenty of groups popping up around the community that are saying the same thing. Nature has a role in the health of kids, and so don't think of it, I would say, just as a construction project. This is strategic. This is part of the mayor's resiliency plan for the community. If you want to look into that, you can go see that this project, which is focused on equal access to nature for kids, primarily in West Louisville, is part of the mayor's strategic plan. So we're not doing this in a vacuum. We've got significant community involvement, and we want to engage you all. So please see me after. Find out how you all can get involved with the project if you haven't been to date. That's what I'm saying.
And I have some more to touch on that. So I want to give you, a case study that I've been involved in a lot of park projects, and I've implemented a lot of park projects.